What's cracking, guys? Omar Isuf here. I got a very special guest, someone I highly respect. We got Eric Helms on the channel. As far as it goes when it comes to nutrition, he knows a whole lot. He breaks it down in a very easy to understand way. If you like Eric Helms, if you like this video and you want to see more of him on this channel, make sure to like this video and leave a comment below saying we want more Helms, and we will make it happen. So this first one, what we're going to try and do is take complicated topics or common questions and break them down, what it really means and what you really need to do. So the first question is this: do you need to be in a caloric surplus in order to build muscle? I'm going to let Eric break that down. The last thing I want to say before I let him talk is that he released 2 phenomenal books, The Muscle and Strength Pyramids. I'm not endorsed. I make absolutely no money saying this, but all the information that he talks about can be found in those books. I'm going to link them in the description. I think they're a phenomenal resource for those lifters looking to equip themselves with more knowledge to get more gains.
What's going on, folks? Eric Helms here. First time I've been on the channel. Omar, thank you for having me. You are probably familiar with my compatriot Alberto Nunez. He's been on the channel a few times doing some lifting instructional videos. Omar has asked me to come on and talk about some things that are close to my heart. And one of those is talking about the way we think in the fitness industry and in the bodybuilding, powerlifting, lifting community in general. So given that you're watching Omar's channel, you probably are aware that taking an evidence-based approach and trying to incorporate some element of research-proven methods into your training and nutrition is a smart thing to do. However, I want to make sure that you guys aren't just replacing the gurus of old with the gurus of new. Going, all right, I used to just listen to the biggest guy or the guy who said he coached the most people or was the loudest or whatever, and now I'm listening to the guys with the best science kung fu. You don't want to replace a guru, okay, right? Because the guru, if you see someone as that person on the pedestal, you're already buying into what they say and you believe what they say without needing the burden of proof, all right? And that's almost contrary to what that evidence-based professional, hopefully, if you're following him, wants you to do, all right? So instead of just replacing this old 10 commandments of lifting with a new 10 commandments of lifting that you believe are evidence-based, we want to get away from belief and start thinking differently. Okay? So what I'm here to tell you is that the way you think is more important than what you think. So I want to hopefully give you guys some examples of how to change the way you think about things and how you think, instead of memorizing things and thinking in black and white, but starting to think in terms of the logical assumptions underneath, have some critical thinking, understanding that things are not black and white, but rather they operate along a continuum and a hierarchy. Okay? So that sounds kind of scary and complex. And you certainly don't need to become like a scientist or anything like that. But it's always good to question the underlying assumptions we have, even when we think they're evidence-based. So today, the example I'm going to be talking about is the concept that we must be gaining weight, we must be in a calorie surplus to gain muscle. All right. This is one of those things that is based on energy balance, a very solid tenet in evidence-based practice, something that we all understand to be true. It's well proven. It's one of the things that's as closest to a belief as you can have, but really we shouldn't be having beliefs. We want to have opinions based on our best interpretation of the evidence, right? So we understand that to gain mass or to lose mass, you have to be in a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus. Sure. However, this does not necessarily mean that you must be in a surplus to gain muscle, okay? So here's something you might find interesting. There are hundreds of studies, maybe even thousands out there in the literature, where all the researchers have done is asked a group of individuals, participants, subjects, volunteers in their study to start lifting weights. They don't tell them to be in a calorie surplus, they don't enforce a calorie surplus, and guess what happens? Almost across the board, people gain weight, gain muscle, and get stronger. Oh my God, don't they need somebody from GNC or that big bodybuilder or the magazine to tell them to eat all this food? Not necessarily. There is a natural response in the body because we're an adaptive mechanism. That's how we're here today talking. We've survived this long. We know that when there's a stress applied to the body, some things, the cascade happens, and we naturally do what is required to provide an environment for that adaptation to occur, right? So you don't have to force feed gains. A lot of the times, unless you are someone who has an unhealthy relationship with food or struggles to eat enough or just tends to undereat habitually for behavioral reasons, a lot of the times if you just start training, you'll get hungrier, you'll eat more, and you'll start gaining weight, and it'll predominantly be muscle because you're not force feeding and eating more than you need and gaining fat also, all right? So that's one topic, right? You don't have to force feed gains. The root of hypertrophy is what we do in the weight room, not what we do in the kitchen, which is where I am right now. So, stimulus for growth is lifting weights. Food can provide an environment for growth. Does that mean that in all cases, if you're in a calorie deficit, that is not an environment for growth, you can't gain muscle? I would say no. It depends on how you're doing it, right? So first off, if you have been thinking of a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus as an on or off switch, binary, 0 or 1, black or white, A or B, that's probably not the right way to think of it. Anytime you're eating or right after you've eaten, guess what? You're in a surplus. Okay, you've taken in an external source of energy, and that is surpassing your needs for your current maintenance of body weight, and your good body's going to do something with it, whether that's put on a little bit of body fat, start increasing muscle protein synthesis to put on a little muscle, whatever, it's going to do something with that energy. Then, if it's been a few hours since you've eaten, you're now in a calorie deficit. And this is true whether you are in a bulking phase or a cutting phase. If you haven't eaten in 3 hours, you're probably going to be in a deficit, right, for that time period. And what we call a deficit or a surplus is based on whether we gain weight or lose weight. That's the summation of those eating time points and those time between meals. And whether when you add them all together, those pluses and those minuses, whether you get a positive number or a negative number over a period of time. Now, food is not our only energy source. We can liberate fuel from our body. This includes glycogen, this includes body fat, and hopefully not includes protein from our body as well, right? So we have internal and external sources of energy. So believe it or not, what I'm going to tell you is that silly bro from 1985 who said, dude, just turn all your fat to muscle, bulk up and then weight train and all turn to muscle. He's not right, but he's not completely wrong. So for example, big difference between these two cuts that I'm going to use as to display what I'm talking about. Let's say one person, they're 7% body fat, they've been dieting for a very long time, and they freak out. They go, look, I need to get even leaner. I've stalled. I'm going to eat 800 calories a day. I'm already 7% body fat. I've been dieting for a while. That person is probably, in fact, I can say almost with complete confidence, they're not going to gain muscle on that diet, right? In fact, they've probably already lost some, and now they're going to accelerate that loss of muscle. Example 2. A gentleman who is maybe 15 to 17% body fat, they've been in a surplus for a long time, and they're saying, you know what, I want to mitigate some of this fat gain I've had so I can keep growing more effectively. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 6-week cut, and I'm going to put myself in a 500 calorie deficit. I'm going to make sure my protein intake is high enough. I'm going to follow this very solid training program, sound training principles, sound dietary principles, not losing too fast, plenty of body fat. This person is probably going to continue gaining during that phase because it's not an on or an off switch. They've got a good solid stimulus for muscle gain, and they are not in such a calorie deficit that the internal stores can't make up for that deficit and still provide energy to fuel muscle growth. Now, again, it's not black or white. Am I saying that person doing that 6-week cut is going to make just as much gains as if he was in a calorie surplus? No, but it doesn't mean that he's either going to be losing and hopefully maintaining or gaining muscle, depending on if he's a surplus or a deficit. Because a surplus or a deficit is not an on or an off switch. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully you understand and have a different perspective on this specifically. But more importantly, I want you to think differently. Okay? Instead of just thinking surplus equals weight gain, deficit equals weight loss, therefore no muscle gain unless in surplus, you can start to have a more thorough understanding and think logically, have some critical thinking, and start changing the way you think rather than just following a list of rules. All right? Thanks for having me on, Omar, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
That's all the time we have. I thank Eric Helms for taking the time to make this video. Hopefully it clarified it for a whole lot of you guys. Once again, make sure to like the video if you're liking this content, you want to see more, and suggest below topics for Eric to talk about, because I want to make this a regular feature. The whole idea or the whole goal with this channel is it's an information-based channel, so you can walk away, you can watch the video and think to yourself, shit man, I learned something. I can use this in my next workout. I can use this for better gains. That's all the time we have. Make sure you follow also all the social media links for Eric Helms, and I'll be seeing all you guys, my rascals, in that next video. Peace!